Welcome to the Disruptors, the show for manufacturers, wholesalers, and industrial businesses, building their EdgeFactor through digital transformation that actually delivers. Every week, we unpack real stories, strategies, and lessons using PSV thinking, a practical framework focused on one thing: driving profits, enabling scale, and building long-term enterprise value. I am Ritesh, CTO at Intuji, and your host. We are here to challenge how you think about tech, operations, and what's possible in your business. Let's get into it. Hey Julian, welcome back.
Thanks for having me on. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Matt. We will be discussing a lot of things today as well, as we have already discussed in the other episode. So I'm really excited about it. Today, we'll be discussing about how do business fail while they scale? Like, what do they need to take care of when they scale? Firstly, let's start with what's the difference between scale and growth for a business? Like, how do you refer it to?
Yeah, I guess to me it means that growth is, you're growing, you are moving forward, etc. But scale to me is the ability to infinitely scale the business, which essentially means that, we might grow from whatever a certain amount of revenue to a certain amount of revenue, but can we scale, and is there a linear process that where we've systemized and digitized our processes to a point where, yes, we may have certain restrictions that we can't necessarily just digitize and systemize, such as hiring people and getting people. But outside of that, have we digitized and systemized as much as we possibly can? So that's how I would break the two down, which is growth is growing the business, could be revenue, could be marketing, whatever it is. And it just happens, wouldn't necessarily say naturally, but it happens over time. But you're trying to turn that growth into scale. At least that's what we're trying to do, where we can scale and the business very quickly, and there is processes and systems in place that allow us to do that without trying to duplicate, 1,000 people, right?
Exactly. You are there, man. Like, you almost nailed it, actually. That was the definition. I was going through the internet while my research. And then I was like, this is the first time where I was like doing the research around growth and then scale. And then definitely it meant so, it had such a big difference. I never knew, because most often we use both the terms simultaneously here and there without thinking of why are we using those terms. Now, you already gave the definition. I won't repeat myself, but you were totally right on that, actually. So let's discuss further on into the scaling of the business. Like, what do you think? You have already mentioned about like hiring could be one of the thing that could like be a bad thing for the scale. Like, if we hire wrong people, the scaling thing would go downwards rather than going upwards. So what do you think about it?
Yeah, I think it's not just about hiring the wrong people. Obviously, hiring the wrong people is going to hurt, but also further than that, it's like, I guess we have to have really good people to fulfill the vision of any company, ours included. And it's, I guess, the biggest restrictor to, you can't necessarily just scale good people, if that makes any sense. So like, we have to have good people. We can scale the hiring of good people. Right, that's one thing that even we can improve with what we're doing. But that's the hardest bit. Once we've got the good people in place, then the systems and processes should take care of themselves. If we've got the right people in the right seats, all right, the right people in the right seats, then the systems and processes would take care of themselves. Where I do feel the biggest issue with scale outside of that, more importantly, in my opinion, is most businesses are nowhere near having fully systemized and, most importantly, digitized businesses. So a lot of them are working in what they call digitized, but it's like a glorified spreadsheet, that they're doing a lot of processes, or even worse than that, they don't even have a spreadsheet. They've got customers ringing up manually asking for information, or customers have to do this specific thing, or employees have to do something this way, or there's no structured roadmap of like, okay, here's how we're going to really scale this business and really automate as much as we can of it. I actually wrote a LinkedIn comment about this today about AI, but I think that is the bedrock of big companies that will win with AI. I don't think in the long term, people that win with AI are going to be people, or companies specifically, that use like ChatGPT style tools. Yes, they're great, but more importantly than that is the fact that if you've digitized and properly systemized the business from a digital perspective, and you are digital first, you can then natively embed AI in those processes to allow you to do things that you would have otherwise never been able to do. If your idea of being AI first and whatever else is using ChatGPT or Claude or Perplexity or whatever else, yeah, that's great. Don't get me wrong. But from a company perspective, from an enterprise value perspective, that doesn't really give you any advantage. And that isn't where you're going to see the biggest shifts. With what we're doing with Intuji OS, for example, that is where we will see the shift in the organization and gains in efficiency and insights that we would have never otherwise got at a scale that we would have otherwise never got without it. But that is the whole idea of digitising and systemising the business to that degree.
Exactly. So now we are moving towards digitalizing. It is like, and I also totally agree that there's no way we can replace the human aspect of the business, human resource and everything. But still digitalizing is systemizing. Actually, we are systemizing the process. That's what we are doing. So scaling is, I guess, also relates to systemizing this and systemizing the process and everything. It's not just about adding people and all, but it's about systemizing the process.
I would argue it's more about systemizing, and I agree, but I would argue and say that like the biggest point about it is where businesses struggle to unlock this is there's two parts to it that are a significant undertaking. Firstly, it's the fact that systemizing the business is hard. Creating repeatable processes, repeatable frameworks is hard. It's not easy. It takes, experience, and it takes a lot of time, a lot of work. But you have to have good people to carry out those processes, right? Especially in our business and what we do, what we're selling, etc. We have to have those top tier people to actually work on those processes. But yeah, exactly what we've learned and what we're going through at the moment, what we've done for a heap of businesses. But really, I just think AI has, not to make this all about AI because I know it's not, but I do believe people massively underestimate the power of it to help them scale if they've got the foundation right, which is systemizing, digitizing the business, which is the whole thing of what we're calling this is your EdgeFactor. It's what we talk about and everything else. It's what we're doing with Intuji OS, but we're not going to reveal all the use cases that we have in mind for Intuji OS and what we're doing quite clearly, but we know ourselves that it will enable us to do things we would have never been able to do and have never been able to do in a way that, even do things that would have possibly even taken a week in half an hour. And doesn't mean it's 100% complete. No. But has it taken out 4.5 days of work? Yes. And we will not achieve that by just using, firstly, by not systemizing and not digitizing. And then secondly, by just using kind of standard ChatGPT tools. You're not going to get that.
Yesterday itself, during our huddle, some of the team members were discussing few of the problems with me. And then that just clicked into mind that, okay, this Intuji OS will sort out this rapidly. And that very moment I understood the importance of systemizing and digitizing things. It's very important for any business. And the other thing I wanted to bring here is while we are discussing this thing, I've seen businesses think about scaling is only adding more branches or scaling with the people. That's what the impression is of the businesses that I have dealt with yet till now. So what do you think? Is it only about scaling people? Well, let's clear out this thought process of everyone who's listening to us.
Yeah, I would certainly wouldn't argue it's only about scaling people. You need, any for-profit business will have as minimal good team members as they possibly can to achieve what they need to achieve, if that makes any sense. And sometimes that means adding more team members, right? If you're a for-profit business, you're trying to be as efficient as you possibly can. We want to get it done with the least amount of people possible. So that isn't just about having less people, it's about having really good people as well, right? They can actually do the job. That's one part of it. But yeah, scaling is not just about people, in my opinion. As a business, if you're not looking at saying, okay, how can we do a 50-person or job with 25 people or 15 people? Not, that's not possible. How do we do it? How do we make it possible? Then what are you trying to do would be my point. You should constantly be looking at that. It's how do we run the most lean, efficient organization at the same time, have the systems and tools that allow us to do things we couldn't have otherwise done. And to give an example of this, you might be let's say a distributor or even industrial brand, service brand or something like that there. And you might want to add on a new state or a new country or a new location. If you're digital first, where you genuinely, let's say 80 to 90% of your interactions, your admin, everything else is automated, it's all digitized, It's all systemized. It's all done already, if that makes sense. And it's done very well. E.g., you've created your EdgeFactor. It is a brilliant experience for clients or employees. How much easier is it to launch into that location? It's just like, okay, yeah, all we need to do is essentially add them to the system, right? We just need to bring them on. And then when we got the customer on, it kind of handles itself, right? That's the most important thing. Whereas the opposite of that is like, oh, we're launching to a new location. We have no idea what we need to do. We have to set all this stuff up. We've got to set up new spreadsheets. We've got to set up yeah, it's crazy. Now, I'm not saying that there's not going to be things like setting up operations and all of that. It's not what we're talking about, right? Specifically, but there are processes at least. You might need to set up the machines or the people and stuff, but the rest of it, the actual systems should be able to be followed, right, at scale. And I guess that's the point, is the overall objective is how do we do more with less?
Exactly. When you're a startup, you can do whatever you want to do. When you scale, you have to have a planned scale, I guess. Basically, because I've seen businesses go other ways around. Rather than scaling, they very bad crash. Actually, the business could crash basically because they only thought that hiring is one of the best things they can go for. And then hiring is one of the best thing. I get it. If only if it's there you could hire A players all the time. It's very hard to find A players all the time. If you land up with B and C players, you will only increase the numbers. If they will drag the team, they have all the negative effects. So before even hiring, I would love to say that, okay, firstly, systemize the process. If you have a proper system, and everything is defined, everything is explained to anyone, a self-service process, I would say, a self-service process for employee, for customer, for everyone, then even C player could perform because if they have a clear role, clear responsibility, everything, and then they can go ahead.
The accountability's there as well. Like that's where it's systemized accountability. There's systemized processes. There's everything there to help that person perform. I know there's companies already that are pushing out kind of memos or, kind of executive notes or whatever to say before hiring anyone, whoever's requesting the hiring, they have to demonstrate they've tried to use AI to solve this issue before making a new hire. Now, we're nowhere near that, I would say, for ourselves in regards to what we're doing. But I think the principle of the idea is that there's people that hate that. There's people that get up against that and say, oh, yeah, you just think AI can replace people or whatever. You've got to take it within context. There's always a place for brilliant people and people on the team. But if you're not looking at how you can use AI where it is very good and it is incredible and it can do 80%, right? And you can do the final 20, then that's just utterly stupid. Like it's just utterly stupid. And even if you've got brilliant people, those people don't want to be doing hack work that can be done. Like what I mean is like brilliant people want to be as efficient as they possibly can be, which means that like the whole point, we should be leveraging AI with their help and trying to create the most efficient organization we possibly can. And that's where, we've talked a lot about AI and I didn't really intend to be quite honest, but I do believe it's a big future around scalability of businesses and how even smaller teams will outcompete much larger teams because of that. But then just in general, if technology is holding you back from scaling rather than helping you, then you've got a problem.
I totally agree with you on the aspects of AI as well, because what I also believe is that AI is drastically going to change the efficiency. If someone used to do 10% of it, if he or she uses AI properly, then he can leverage out of that efficiency of like 80 to 90%. That is what I can see already in. But yeah, even saying that, whoever is using AI, they need to know what quality is, what the output is, what the input is, everything. If you don't know the input and output thing, then you are not going to get the desired output actually. Yeah.
Absolutely. I've said it for a long time now, but if you're crap or you don't know what you're doing, AI will just accelerate that and you'll put out more crap and worse stuff. If you're really good and you know what you're doing, AI will accelerate putting out, you'll just help you, right? It's literally an accelerator. That's how you should look at it. If you think it's a skill replacer, yes, there's things it can do where it can code for someone that doesn't code for something small and it can smash up a quick MVP and all of that. Yeah, that's going to get better, but it's never going to replace like large scale. I'll put it this way. I don't believe it's ever going to replace large scale complex projects with all these different stuff. Can we aggregate the broken down smaller steps and help those really talented team members do more with less, right? Literally, that's how simple it is. That's where we're going to get to. And yes, as it gets better and better, yes, it's going to be, for example, we're basically limited pretty much at 1 million tokens at the moment. I reckon that's probably going to go to 10, 15, who knows, 30 million, whatever, in the next couple of years. And suddenly we are dealing with much bigger context and all of that. But as we know, it's not a silver bullet. But the idea is that we're proving this. The only reason where I come from in a place of saying this is we have proven MVPs ourselves of this very thing. I know, for example, the latest tool, I don't even think I've discussed this tool with you, and I won't discuss it here publicly, but a tool I've developed in the last, I literally developed in a couple of days, but the data of it has been much longer than that. It's been years collating the data, and it's proving incredible. It's doing stuff that I could never do myself. And the only reason it works so well is because of the data and how well it is structured and how systemized it is. Because if that wasn't done, it would be complete trash, right? And I'm not saying this tool is perfect yet. It's not by any stretch of the imagination. But is it 80% there? Yeah, wow. And is it doing something? The whole intention of it really is to make myself available at scale to the team. Not in a crap way. I just want to be clear on that. In a very, okay, wow, that is exactly like he would do, or that's exactly like him. It's doing something that I could have never done. And yeah, it's 80% there already. Right? And it all comes back to the data and the structure of that, right? So it's, is it a game changer on its own? No, but this is where we start as a business. If we take that whole mindset and we're building these little tools inside Intuji OS, etc., not that are disjointed, but it's all kind of one thing. The power's there. Like, we'll be able to do things we've never ever been able to do.
Now I want to stop you here because we are completely deviated from our today's topic. So basically, let's come back to the scalability. All right. Basically, I know I want to continue with you. I want to discuss with you on the AI aspects of it. Let's have a separate episode for it. I guess we can. It would be a great episode, anyways. But right now, let's.
Yeah, well, I apologize for taking us off track. But one thing I'll argue, the only reason I'm coming from it from an AI perspective, absolutely, let's get back on the scalability side. But I do believe that is the core. We're not talking immediately, but most businesses are nowhere near even prepared for that, because they haven't put these foundations in place for scale. That's where I'm coming from, is that from a scale perspective, it will allow you to do things you've never done, but you have to get those foundations right, e.g. your data, your systems, and your structure right before you can even think about doing that.
I totally get you. We have been discussing through it now a couple of months now. We have been doing this for ourselves as well. Structuring the data is very, very important. Until and unless if the data is not structured, it's just a crap, and you will invest more in structuring the crap data. Actually, it's a very tough thing, right? Finding out the good stuff from the data is a very tough thing. So yeah, do you think we have worked on any of the clients that we have scaled their business, and then anything that has helped with your experience? I just want to have a case study somewhere around scalability kind of thing from we and us. Let's discuss somewhere around that.
Yeah, well, there's multiple case studies without getting into specific details. I guess that overall the key points of it are we've taken manual processes, heavy human input processes, or human reliant, not even necessarily input. So it might be quality checks, it could be inputting data, it could be moving it from systems, and completely removes the need for that, and then automated it as much as possible. And it's from things like quality checks, so automating checks and balances, if that makes sense, to just, for example, rather than even just a very simple one, and it's an easy one, but it's like customers emailing orders that get inputted into the system because there's no customer portal for them to place the order, and or just use AI to basically take a standardized format. And okay, yes, it won't be perfect to start with, but you could enter that, you could literally turn that into a order and put it in the system automatically. Yes, it's not perfect. That's not what we're trying to say, but like, we can absolutely create technology there. It's like people just look at things completely the wrong way. And as it comes back to what you discussed about earlier, it's just like, it's easier in the short term to throw someone else at it because people don't want to try and spend the mental energy or time to solve the problem properly. So you just throw someone else at it, and they throw margin away with doing that. They essentially are, it's better. Not only is it throwing margin away, I guess, is throwing someone else, but you're not solving the problem for actual scale. For example, as you double customers, you're just going to have, now we've got to add 5 more people on entering orders. Instead of just solving the problem back when you started, you now don't even have to have any more because it scales infinitely. How do we get as much of the business to scale infinitely as we can? That's the simplest way I can put it.
Yeah, I totally agree actually on that. And then I guess before AI or the business was around from paper to digital. Now it's not only digital, getting into paper from people were into paper, laser, and then all that files and everything. Now the business was around, or the job was around digitizing those things. But now it's not only digitizing those things, it's all digitizing to make it AI ready, I guess. AI ready data. That's what it is very important now. That's what your business or your S factor will have a value from.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think when we talk about your EdgeFactor or your operating system as a central system, we deal with and talk with so many businesses that even have so-called implemented technology or have got systems that help them scale and stuff like that there. But they're running Google Sheets, Smart Sheets, they're running NetSuite, they're running Salesforce, and then they've got another sort of half CRM thing over here as well. And then they actually take payments through Stripe, but then the admin lady keeps track of that through a Google Doc that is shared with two people. The point of it is there is no central system that you can actually rely on. And yes, they have systems, but they are all heavily human reliant because like, oh, Jeff from finance knows how to do this, or this person knows, oh, if I touch that button, the whole thing crashes. So we don't touch that anymore. Like the whole point of it is they've tried to do digital transformation. They've got all of these decoupled systems. They've got data everywhere. As you said earlier, crap in, crap out basically. And I believe like a lot of people arguing, I guess the other way, saying like AI has reduced the need for systems and like is going to eliminate so much of this stuff. I would say what it is doing is actually more than ever putting businesses in a position where they need to own their data and they need a central data location where not only is it like data where it's like, oh, these are our customers or whatever else, but I'm talking like the whole business is structured and systemized. So if you want a project, all the project management and that project is all stored, structured properly, every artifact, everything's indexed, it's vectorized, whatever else is all in one spot. You can't do that when you use 6 different tools. You can't. Yes, you can use AI within those tools or whatever else, not even just AI, but you can use whatever's within those tools. But what do you do? Okay, so you're going to create 16 integrations to try and pull it all out and push it in and everything else. This is the point where I think it's actually ushered in more of an era where it's like we need to own our data, we need to own our system, and we need to have our own EdgeFactor, which is our own operating system. Now, if we do that, that's how we win. That's how, right? We talk about PSV thinking. That's how we increase profit, enable scale, which is what this is about, but also importantly, build enterprise value.
I couldn't agree more on that actually. Basically, we have seen a lot of businesses with using multiple tools here and there, whatever, and then no one is in sync actually. Basically, to be in a sync, they require a lot of people. The operation cost is really high, and then it's people dependent rather than system dependent, process dependent. Exactly, you refer to Jeff. It's Jeff, like no one else can do.
Yeah, no one knows apart from Jeff kind of thing. Like we have to ask Jeff, and if Jeff's not here, what happens, right? Like we know this ourselves, like through our own experience. This is exactly why we're doing Intuji OS and everything else. But we know it even more from dealing with other businesses that we're doing this for and working with them. Yeah, I guess the key thing is that how infinitely can you scale as a business? And I guess a key question is like how much relies on a person rather than a process. And you can say that, yeah, we've got a process, it's a paper process and it works and everything else. Yes, okay, but how well does that scale without people? If that makes any sense. Paper can't do compliance checks and cross-references and reference stuff from other systems. The power of it is there. Like if a manufacturer wants to create their own operating system, their own EdgeFactor that replaces maybe not their ERP, we're not trying to replace that necessarily, but maybe replaces 90% of their tools and is the home of their business. The opportunities that are out there are endless. Talking about integrating their machines, pulling real-time machine data. So much of this stuff lives in isolated systems and this has been talked about for years. This isn't new, but now I believe with AI and why I've talked about it so much in this scale thing, I believe it's even more important now than it's ever been. And people talk about the cost of it and how much it's going to cost to build all of this stuff. Look at the cost that is actually genuinely costing you not doing it by inefficiency, and look at what it's going to cost you in the long run without doing it by people that do it. That's the biggest thing. Because if you say, yeah, we would love to do it and it's a no-brainer, then you should be looking at least at how you get onto that journey, not just writing it off.
Totally agree with you on that. We'll keep this episode a bit shorter. I want you to summarize this episode to scale. Let's have 3 points with listeners. If you are scaling, the points that you have to focus. Let's give them that.
Good. If I was trying to, for scale now, I would be focusing on a few things, which would be, as you said, okay, 3 points I've got to bring it down to. But if I had said, okay, I'll give from Intuji OS, if that makes sense, exactly what we're doing and why we're doing it with that, because it answers that question. We're trying to take what makes us unique and systemize it, firstly, and make sure that the systems are incredibly robust and can be followed by anyone. That, when we say systemize, we mean digitize, which is another part of that. We're trying to bring all of that into one location so we can report on it, cross-reference on it, and it manages itself, right? We talked about systemized and digitized accountability, right? Metrics, reporting, all of these kind of things. Like, for example, if we get a project, we know the ideas and what we're implementing in Intuji OS, but we've had processes before, right, that have somewhat worked, but this is a whole nother level of what we're trying to do. But focus on systemizing and digitizing your processes and self-service for whoever the stakeholder is, as you said earlier. For example, as a team member, I should be able to self-service my whole job. That genuinely means, like, how do we, now it's not always possible to do 100%, but I'm saying, like, how do we have the mindset of, like, how do we enable whoever it is on the team to basically be as autonomous as possible and have more context than ever? That's the point. Now, most people don't do that. That's the employees. Same thing with customers. Like, how do you make them to be as autonomous as possible, have more context and a better experience than ever, but it's all self-service? People go, oh, it's not that easy. It's not that, but it is. It's just, you just don't want to put the work and effort into actually figuring out how to do it. That's how you then get, because if that forces you to actually set things up properly and make sure the systems are done properly, make sure they're digitized properly, because if someone's going to self-service, you can't afford mistakes, right? Like, you have to make sure it's all done properly. And then suddenly, when you've achieved that self-service kind of idea, just scale it.
So lastly, I wanted to add, as you were discussing, I had something in my mind. So I wanted to add lastly on this episode, one of my experience in one of our projects, what we did is we allocated few resource team members initially, and then we wanted to scale it fast, complete the project faster, and then get there faster. We added more team members, but that adding team members didn't create solution to that. It more ruined the process, and then we had to add more managers to manage the team and all that. The management cost was higher, and then project also got a bit sidelined and all that, but we solved it out and all that. But that experience I would love to share with all of you team members, all of you here, because always adding team is not a solution. It can't linearly scale actually. There has to be a proper system while adding team members and then adding, because if the process is not defined properly and then everything is not clear, then adding team members, adding people will have an inverse effect at first. So that's what I have experienced as well.
So more resource doesn't mean a quicker resolution. That's a process problem.
Okay, thanks guys. I guess we should wrap up this episode today. And then thanks for listening. We'll catch up next week with similar kind of content. Most probably AI, I guess. Let's see.
We'll figure it out.
We'll figure it out. Thanks guys. Thanks for catching up. Thanks, Julian.
Thank you.
That's a wrap on this episode of The Disruptors. If you are serious about unlocking your EdgeFactor, the thing that sets your business apart and helps it grow sustainably, don't forget to follow, share, and leave a quick review. We will be back next week with more real-world insights and no-flop conversations on how to rethink your systems, modernize operations, and build value that lasts. Until then, stay sharp, stay focused, and keep disrupting.